Hey, Crystal Maiden here, doing post commentary over the first video game I ever played, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Well, it was either this or Super Mario World. I was so young, like I was 4 years old when I first started playing video games, so I honestly can't remember which one I played first. I'm recording this off the Wii, even though I have the game for the Super Nintendo, because I have no idea how to hook up my Elgato game capture to my Super Nintendo and record off it. And that would require unplugging a bunch of things, and it sounds like a lot of work when I can just record it on my Wii. So I apologize for not making it look, not making it feel natural, but well. This game introduces a lot of firsts for the Zelda franchise on account of being on more advanced hardware. Like for one, this is the very first Zelda game to uh, have a fancy intro like this that gives a much more fleshed out story. They call the Triforce the Golden Power, which isn't really, it's not called the Golden Power in any other Zelda game. And I kind of like that because it makes this game feel more unique. Of course, people are fighting over this powerful artifact. Evil power began to flow from the Golden Land. Is that ever really explained? They're called 7 wise men here. In future Zelda games, they would have this concept and they would call them sages instead. And again, I like that they're called wise men here because it makes this game feel more unique. And another thing that this game introduces is the map screen. About fucking time. Now, although it's kind of pointless because I've memorized the overworld already, but for people who haven't memorized the overworld, it's really nice to have an actual map screen. I'm not sure why people say that there's a skeleton there, like, or a dead body sitting on the throne. I mean, maybe it's just the Super Nintendo graphics, but I can't really see anything on the throne that would indicate that. I don't know. So this wizard named Aganim locks up Zelda and the descendants of the Seven Sages. I'm not really sure how Zelda is a descendant of the Seven Sages. Like, was one of the Seven Sages a member of the royalty? It kind of, I don't really like deleting a file to make room for a new one, but well, file limitations. Just like in the previous game, you can name Link whatever you want, which is awesome. In Link Between Worlds, they actually have a restriction on what names you can give yourself on your own file, on your own video game you bought with your own money. Like, really? So if you want to name your character Asshat, you can't. It kind of defeats the purpose of being allowed to name your character. I generally call him Link because unless it's a Zelda game where you can get especially funny results from dialogue from having a name like that. And this is another first for a Zelda franchise. You have rain. There's actually a rain effect. And I really like that. I mean, I love how I especially love how the sound effect continues when you're inside buildings. It gives it that it really makes you feel like you're in a rainy area and there's rainy weather going on. And there's flashes of light to indicate the lightning, which I sort of love and hate at the same time because I don't like flashes of light. I don't like moving through the thick grass because you move slower when you're going through the grass. These soldiers give you tutorial messages when you talk to them, as well as tell you to go back inside. They're really breaking the fourth wall when they're telling you tutorial messages. I'm not sure why they do that in universe. And this is annoying, but at the same time, it's good because it tells you what to do, although it should be blatantly obvious what to do because there's a bush and it's surrounded by circular pavement or whatever. Of course they're gonna lift it up. and Link's uncle Orca dies. On screen, no less. There's no implied, and, well, this Zelda game is pretty dark in that a lot of characters die, on screen even, but it undoes all of the deaths at the end of the game. Spoiler alert. So it kind of, well, it has genuine sad moments in its plot, because a lot of characters die, but at the same time it's kind of pointless. I hate that soldier. But anyways, it feels kind of like the story is defeating itself or whatever, because the characters all come back anyways. It's like Final Fantasy 4 or 6, whatever game it is. The Final Fantasy game where you have these two twins and they turn themselves to stone to help you. But they get turned back to normal anyways. So even though it's sad, they still come back to life anyways. Anyways, you might have noticed that you're fighting soldiers even though you're just talking to soldiers that were helping you. Yep, the game confirms it. These soldiers are brainwashed human beings, and you're killing them. The original concept art, the original sprites for these guys had it made it a lot more obvious that they were humans. And obviously they changed that because they were uncomfortable with making it blatantly obvious that Link was killing human beings. Although everyone is brought back to normal at the end of the game. I mean, in the ending credits, you can very clearly see sprites that you see human beings wearing the same armor as these soldiers here in the ending credits, and they're all alive and happy. So it really doesn't matter how many soldiers you kill in this game. But still, it makes you wonder why Link doesn't have PTSD or something by the end of this. But Link has never really had much of a personality in the games. Like, he's supposed to be the link between the player and the person you're controlling or whatever, but the fact that he doesn't have a personality means he's impossible to relate to. I like to supplement my personality onto his, but you do that with every character you play as anyways. Like, just because you're playing as a nice character doesn't mean you're going to act nice when you play as him, and so on. I got the lantern earlier, and the lantern lights up dark rooms, but we won't be using it yet. The boomerang, it's really not that different from in Zelda 1. It stuns enemies, and it brings items to you. And the cool thing is, they actually put a lot of thought into the drop rates of items in this game, because yeah, this is the proper way to defeat this guy. Just throw jars at him, because jars deal a lot more damage than sword strikes. I guess blunt force from a thrown jar does a lot more damage than a sword swiping through. Well, it is hitting armor, so. Don't choose not at all, because then she'll repeat all of her dialogue all over again. At least it's not like Hey Bora Gay Bora in Ocarina of Time, where she repeats all the dialogue, and the default option highlighted is to repeat the dialogue. That would suck. But anyways, there's actually a lot of thought put into which items are dropped at which times in this game, because I guess they thought that killing enemies by stunning them and killing them was overpowered. So to balance that out, they made it so that enemies were always guaranteed to not drop hearts if you stunned them and killed them. Which is good. And it's also a really easy way to get money, because you're always guaranteed to get a green rupee from killing them that way. Although that can be a bit of an issue, since, you know, you don't always want it to drop just a green rupee. There's some cash cow enemies that drop blue rupees, which are worth 5 rupees. And you don't want to stun them with the boomerang, because you won't get as much rupees. And I hate dark rooms in this game. What was wrong with the previous setup, where you used a candle and you immediately lit up the entire room? Why why does it have to be you're in a completely dark room and you can only see a little bit of what's around you? And believe it or not, A Link Between Worlds actually makes this worse, because the lantern light that surrounds you is smaller, because yeah, that's what you wanted, and the light is pretty dim too. So you're still stumbling around mostly blind in the dark rooms anyways. And I just hate this so much. I mean, I don't mind when you light up one torch and the room's dimly lit, but you can still see. You can still see everything around you. The enemies aren't suddenly attacking you, which is incredibly cheap when they suddenly rush at you from off screen. And you're expected to have lightning fast reflexes to hit them in time. But how are you supposed to know they were coming when you couldn't see them? It feels like a cheap challenge, and I hate stumbling around the dark. Like, I know that this is supposed to be like a dark room, and it's supposed to be more realistic, but who wants to bumble around in the dark? This isn't Silent Hill. I'm playing a Zelda game. This isn't fun. Why did they change this? And they never... This is the standard for Zelda games now. They're always going to have dark rooms be this annoying. I don't like not being able to see what I'm doing. This is the first... No, Zelda 1 was the first game to call back the keys. I was confused because Zelda 2 called them aches for some reason. The keys are a little annoying because they move very suddenly in an unpredictable direction as soon as you approach them. But they're a lot better than Zelda 1, because in Zelda 1 they would fly all over the place and they would never stop. The rats are kind of annoying too, because they start moving very suddenly and in unpredictable directions, and they can very easily hit you. But they're cash cows. Look, one dropped a red rupee, which is worth 20 rupees. This is the first Zelda game to introduce the concept of multicolored rupees that give you a lot more than just 5 rupees, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, pulling the left lever makes snakes drop, which are called ropes in the Zelda franchise. And unlike in Zelda 1, it takes multiple hits to kill them, which is really annoying, and I hate that. And they don't act exactly the same as the ropes in Zelda 1. So they're a lot more likely to hurt you. So pull the right lever and you'll get here. I don't think the priest of the sanctuary, which is a censored version of the church, and I really like the sanctuary as a name. I mean, I love its atmosphere. I love the music. I really do. And I love the way it looks. I love everything about the sanctuary, and I prefer that it's not called a church because, well, among other reasons, it's a Zelda game, and Zelda games shouldn't have churches. If they have a sort of facsimile of a church, they should at least call it something else. And I love the word sanctuary being applied to religious buildings. Like, I think the reason it's called sanctuary is based off the fact that in medieval times, criminals could get away with committing horrible crimes by going to a church and ringing a bell and saying sanctuary. And then they could be prosecuted for it for some stupid, idiotic reason. So that's what it was based off of. Don't head to Kakariko Village right away, because there's stuff in the Lost Woods that you need to get. It's covered in fog, and those crows are really annoying. I think they're called takaris. And you get a piece of heart, and the piece of heart was introduced in this game. You collect 4 of them to get a full heart container. And I like having pieces of hearts because it means that there's a much larger amount of secrets that you can get. There's a lot more secret treasures that you can find. Pick up the bushes covering these guys, and they'll run around in unpredictable directions really fast and throw rupees. And if you hit them, you get knocked back by them, but you don't get hurt. If you attack these guys normally, you'll get electrocuted. so they're kind of annoying. You have to stun them. And this guy is such a ripoff. Most gambling rooms charge you 30 rupees, although this one makes up for it because you can potentially win 300 rupees as a prize, so at least the prizes adjust themselves for the price of entering the game. You can get the mushroom here, and the mushroom is necessary for making the magic powder, which is an item that you definitely want to get. And the thieves are really annoying. Like, although they have to hit you a whole bunch of times before they can start stealing items for you. It seems to be a random chance whether they make you lose items or not. And they can steal anything from you. They can steal bombs and arrows as well as rupees. Although they can't steal shields, which is good. These enemies deal a lot of damage, so don't even try to fight them at this point in the game. You'll probably die. I don't know if it's set in the code which gravestones you push to release the pose, but yeah, those enemies deal a lot of damage too, so don't, and it's really annoying how they can fly over stuff and then you can't attack them. That's so cheap. That's so annoying. You can't attack him. So yeah, cutting grass was another concept introduced in this game, and so is walking through shallow water, which I will soothe your wounds. Yeah. They fixed that later on. They fixed that in the Game Boy Advance port, but I'm restraining myself from talking about it because I want to devote an extra video to the version differences. So if I talk all about the Game Boy Advance version in the main LP, then I'm gonna have nothing left to talk about for the version differences aside from repeating what I already said, and then there would be not much of a point to making the video. But yeah, I hate the crabs because it's easy for you to get hit by them, and they deal a lot of damage when they hurt you, especially for this point in the game. And these enemies are annoying too because they back away a lot faster than they should be able to because they're backing away. And how fast do you back away? It never seems fair when an enemy can back away that fast. If you talk to the witch NPC, he says double, toil and trouble. But you have to talk to him. To get that dialogue, you have to talk to him without having the mushroom. And why'd you do that? No, stop. So I missed out on the dialogue because I completely forgot to show it off. Yeah, you have to leave the screen and come back, and then he'll have the magic powder ready for you. This was the first Zelda game to introduce the concept of being able to... Oh yeah, and bombs, and mines. That was introduced too, but cutting grass and cutting bushes was introduced in this game. As well as the concept of going up to shops and... That's a weird Easter egg, and... No, I didn't. I didn't bind Sahasrara. I haven't even learned about him yet. Wow. You'd expect an Easter egg to have more thought put into it than that. They didn't at all account for the possibility that you hadn't found Sahasrara yet. But anyways, this is the first Zelda game to introduce the concept of cutting bushes and grass to find hearts and rupees. And it introduces a lot more concepts than that. You'll be seeing what I mean later. This game is truly revolutionary. I'll see you in the next part.